Have you ever felt completely drained just after a short conversation with someone? Have you ever suspected that someone might be controlling your emotions without you even realizing it? And have you noticed that chaos often seems to follow certain people, even when they appear harmless? Unfortunately, evil doesn't just live in ancient myths or Hollywood movies. It's real. It's among us. And perhaps most unsettling, it often works quietly, subtly, and invisibly. But here's the good news. With just a bit of awareness, you can spot the red flags and shield yourself from its influence. Evil people don't walk around with horns or tails, but their actions inevitably reveal who they are. They manipulate, destroy, and exploit your kindness for their own benefit. The good news? You don't have to be a detective to recognize them. Ancient Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius have passed down timeless wisdom to help us identify evil and protect our inner peace. In this video on Stoic living, I'll uncover 10 unmistakable signs that you're dealing with an evil person, clues that you simply can't afford to ignore. These insights will empower you to preserve your energy, maintain your clarity, and walk through life with confidence and calm. Let's begin with the first sign: constant manipulation. Seneca once warned us, "He who has many fears also has many things to be manipulated." This isn't just a philosophical reminder. It's a hard truth about the devastating power manipulation holds in the hands of the malicious. Such individuals don't grow through integrity. They thrive by twisting reality, turning lies into their most effective weapon. I remember working with a colleague I initially trusted. He was smooth, charming, even generous with praise in front of others. It made me feel seen and appreciated. But behind the scenes, he quietly planted narratives, turning small errors into major problems in the eyes of our management. When I started sensing something was wrong and confronted him, he remained calm, insisting he was only trying to help me grow. That made me question myself. Was I truly falling short? I started doubting my own abilities. But the truth, he wasn't helping me at all. He was manipulating me into dependence, making me feel like I needed his guidance just to be good enough. That's how manipulation works. It doesn't just confuse you, it corrodes your self-belief. Manipulators don't build relationships on trust. They exploit your insecurities to gain control. They prey on your uncertainties, convincing you that only they understand you and that only they can guide you. Stoic philosophy teaches us that clarity and self-control are your best defenses. A truly virtuous person will always guide you toward freedom and independence, never entangle you in reliance. If someone in your life is constantly urging you to follow their lead while ignoring your personal boundaries, it's time to take a step back. Remember the wisdom of Epictetus. No man is free who is not master of himself. By refusing to play the manipulation game, you reclaim your thoughts, your choices, and your life. You don't need to argue or prove anything. Just walk away and hold on to your freedom. And that's just the first sign. Next, let's uncover how toxic people often hide their true nature behind a polished, charming mask. As we've seen, manipulators often don't come at you with force. They charm their way into your life, disarming you with kindness. But what if that charm feels too perfect? Have you ever met someone whose charm seems straight out of a movie scene? Their smile glowing and radiant, their words smooth and comforting, and somehow they always knew just what to say to make you feel like the center of the universe. It all felt so flawless, too flawless. But take a step back. Look again. Beneath that polished surface, behind the flattering compliments and warm gestures, you might discover something far less genuine. Because when charm is used with sincerity, it has the power to build bridges. It connects hearts, earns trust, and nurtures real, meaningful relationships. Yet in the hands of someone with darker intentions, charm becomes something else entirely, a weapon. These people don't just want to be liked, They want to be needed, admired, even worshiped. They use charm as camouflage to mask selfish motives and manipulate from behind a smile. They present themselves as the friend you've always wanted, the partner who just gets you, or the mentor you never had. But their charm is hollow, a glossy shell that hides something far more toxic. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When someone's intentions are dishonest, it inevitably stains their actions. These individuals don't only manipulate, they seduce with their words, carefully choosing each phrase to lower your guard and gain your trust. But if you pay attention, you'll start to see the cracks in their performance. Watch what they do when they think no one's looking. How do they treat people who have nothing to offer them? Are they still kind, or does the mask slip? Words can be polished and poetic, but actions are unfiltered truth. I remember someone I once called a friend. He had a rare gift for making people feel special, as if each compliment came straight from the heart. Everyone around him adored him. But over time, something didn't feel right. His praise, once uplifting, began to feel rehearsed, calculated. It became clear that his compliments were a currency, exchanged for attention, influence, or favors. And when there was nothing left to take, he moved on, fast. He even began speaking poorly of those he had once flattered so deeply. So how do you break free from the trance of charm? Start by listening to your gut. If something feels off, even if everything looks perfect, trust that feeling. These manipulators count on you ignoring the red flags, hoping you'll believe the illusion they've crafted. Stoic philosophy reminds us that truth wears no mask. Authentic kindness doesn't need to sparkle. It speaks through quiet integrity. So peel back the shiny surface and look for the substance underneath, because real goodness never needs a disguise. Which brings us to the next sign of danger. Perhaps one of the most damaging of all, the lie without conscience. When someone lies not by accident, but as a way of life, how do we respond? In the previous section, we explored how lies, when used habitually and without conscience, become tools of control, designed to distort reality and weaken your grasp on truth. But what happens when these lies are paired with something even colder? A complete lack of empathy? Empathy is the invisible thread that binds people together. As Seneca wisely noted, humans are social creatures, not meant to live solely for themselves. Empathy allows us to feel with others, to celebrate their joys, to mourn their losses, and to simply be present when they need us. But to someone truly malicious, people are not companions. They're pawns in a self-centered game. Imagine sitting across from someone you consider a close friend. You've had a rough week, and you finally gather the courage to open up about a personal struggle. You speak from the heart, hoping to be heard, hoping for a little understanding. But instead of support, they wave it off with a shrug and say, "You think that's bad? Wait till you hear about my day." Your vulnerability is brushed aside, your pain dismissed like background noise to their monologue. That's not just insensitivity, that's a clear sign of emotional disconnection, a repeated behavior that reveals an unwillingness, or worse, an incapacity to care about anyone but themselves. This detachment shows up in more than just words. It's there in their cold reactions when you share something meaningful. It's in the way they change the subject when you express hurt. Sometimes they even seem to take quiet satisfaction in your pain. Like your struggle feeds their sense of control. It's chilling, isn't it? Empathy isn't a luxury. It's the cornerstone of all authentic human connection. Without it, relationships become hollow, one-sided, and deeply draining. And those who lack empathy often use that absence to their advantage. They may pretend to care when it benefits them, wearing a mask of compassion. But the moment it no longer serves their interests, the mask slips, and their indifference reveals itself. Marcus Aurelius once said, No more arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. In other words, don't waste your energy trying to change someone who shows you who they really are. Instead, focus on being someone who reflects empathy, integrity, and self-awareness. So what should you do when faced with this cold indifference? First, set firm boundaries. Don't let their emotional vacancy make you question your own worth. Protect your peace and prioritize relationships built on mutual respect and emotional presence, ones that uplift you rather than leave you feeling unseen. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your joy and hold space for your pain. Because real connection is never one-sided. It's rooted in compassion, not convenience, and never in control. Before we move on to the next warning sign, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Stoic Living and tap the bell icon so you don't miss future insights. And if you're recognizing these signs in your own life, drop a comment saying, "I see the signs." Let's keep learning together. Now let's talk about the fifth trait, and it's a powerful one: the unrelenting hunger for control. What does it look like when someone doesn't just want influence, but wants to own your thoughts, your decisions, even your sense of self? In the last part, we uncovered how the desire for control isn't just about influencing your choices. It's about dominating your very sense of self. And the most dangerous part? It's often disguised as help. I remember clearly how they kept urging me to let them take the lead. At the time, it felt harmless, almost comforting. They said things like, "I just want what's best for you," or "Trust me, I've been through this." And so I agreed. Not because I didn't have thoughts of my own, but because they'd made me feel incapable of trusting them. Worse, incapable of trusting myself. Looking back, the truth was obvious. They didn't want to guide me. They wanted to keep me small. The goal was never to help me grow. It was to keep me within reach, never strong enough to walk away or rise above. People like this don't just influence your decisions. They try to dominate your inner world. They use guilt to make you feel ungrateful, shame to make you feel unworthy, and sweet talk to keep you dependent. Over time, you begin to question your own instincts. You wonder if your thoughts are valid, if your emotions are too much, if your voice even matters. Epictetus wisely said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and that freedom isn't found in the absence of rules. It's found in the refusal to be controlled by what lies beyond your power." Evil individuals know this truth too well. That's why they work so hard to imprison your mind, because they know that's where real power lives. But you don't have to live in that prison. You can walk out, starting with a simple question: does this align with my values? That question becomes a compass, helping you navigate through their emotional manipulation and back toward your own truth. Autonomy is your greatest strength. No one has the right to steal it from you. As Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So protect those thoughts fiercely. Don't allow anyone to cloud your judgment or rewrite your worth. The people who truly care for you will never try to control you. They'll support your growth, celebrate your independence, and cheer for your evolution, even if it means growing beyond them. Stand firm, protect your mind, and let it guide you toward the freedom you deserve. Now let's move on to the sixth sign, a tactic that's subtle but deeply damaging: the blame game and constant deflection. Seneca once observed that people often choose trust over sound judgment, and manipulative individuals know exactly how to exploit that. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, they twist the truth and present themselves as the perpetual victim. Every mistake, every misstep is someone else's fault. Sound familiar? These people are master storytellers, but unlike honest stories rooted in truth, theirs are carefully constructed to shift guilt away from themselves, often right onto you. I remember working closely on a project with someone I considered a trusted friend. When problems started to surface, instead of admitting to her own mistakes, She immediately turned the spotlight on me. My planning, my communication, my decisions, everything was suddenly in question. And she delivered it all with such a calm, constructive tone that I almost believed her. It wasn't a one-time thing. The pattern repeated. Every time something went wrong, I ended up carrying the blame until I realized I wasn't failing. I was being manipulated. People like this distort reality so subtly that you begin to doubt your memory, your competence, even your character. Their goal is not only to escape accountability, but to plant seeds of self-doubt that keep you questioning yourself while they quietly maintain control. Marcus Aurelius offered a powerful reminder. The truth stands on its own. And that's exactly what you must anchor yourself to when dealing with blame shifters. Stay grounded in facts. Observe their actions. Listen carefully, but don't let their version of events become your reality. When they twist the narrative, calmly and firmly hold them accountable. It's not about confrontation, it's about clarity. And it's your clarity that will shield you from the emotional confusion they thrive on. Set clear boundaries. Refuse to carry the weight of their guilt. You don't have to take on responsibility that doesn't belong to you. Next, we'll uncover another toxic pattern used by manipulative individuals, one that strikes even deeper, a lack of genuine remorse. What happens when someone causes harm and feels nothing at all? In the previous section, we uncovered how manipulators twist the truth, shift blame, and avoid accountability, all to protect their fragile egos. But there's an even more disturbing behavior we must now confront: the pleasure some people feel from watching others suffer. This is not just unsettling, it's a sign of something deeply toxic. One of the most alarming traits of a truly malicious individual is the subtle, sometimes even gleeful satisfaction they seem to draw from the pain and misfortune of others. While most people are wired to feel compassion, sympathy, or at the very least discomfort when others are struggling, these individuals seem to thrive in those moments. Epictetus wisely advised us to associate with those who make you better. But people who take joy in others' suffering have no intention of making anyone better, not even themselves. They don't offer support. They don't seek growth. What they do seek are opportunities to degrade, to criticize, and to feel superior at the expense of others. What's insidious is how subtle this behavior often begins. It might look like a snide joke, a sarcastic jab during someone else's moment of vulnerability, or a satisfied smile when they hear about someone's failure. It may appear harmless at first, just dark humor or brutal honesty, but over time you start to see a pattern. They don't just laugh at missteps, they feed off them. I once had a friend who seemed almost delighted when others around her stumbled. She would tell stories of people's mistakes with an odd sense of enthusiasm, her voice tinged with excitement. One day, a coworker was scolded in front of the whole office. I felt secondhand embarrassment. She laughed. At first, I told myself maybe she was just uncomfortable or awkward in those situations. But as time went on, it became painfully clear. This was her way of feeling powerful. She didn't gain confidence from her own accomplishments. She inflated her ego by watching others fall apart. Instead of showing empathy or support, she amplified the struggles of others to cast herself in a brighter light. As Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than one who never faces adversity." But people like this don't view adversity as a lesson. They use it as a tool. They mock, criticize, and even sabotage those around them just to feel in control. What drives this behavior? At the root of it is a deep, unresolved insecurity. Their fleeting joy comes not from genuine success, but from seeing others stumble. They feel elevated, not because they've grown, but because they've managed to push someone else down. Stoic philosophy teaches us to safeguard our peace, our integrity, and our self-worth. And that starts with recognizing the signs: the mocking tone, the smirk when someone fails, the eagerness to highlight other people's mistakes. These aren't harmless quirks, they're red flags. Every moment spent around someone who rejoices in pain is a moment you risk losing your own emotional balance. It chips away at your self-esteem and gradually normalizes cruelty masked as confidence. That's why it's essential to surround yourself with people who genuinely support you. Those who celebrate your success, uplift you when you struggle, and remind you of your worth even when you fall. Real connection is not built on competition or humiliation. It's rooted in shared compassion, growth, and encouragement. True joy isn't found in tearing others down. It's built by rising together. And yet, the most effective way a toxic person can maintain control is to cut you off from everyone who might protect or empower you. That's what we'll explore next. How isolation becomes a powerful weapon in the hands of someone who wants to manipulate your world from the inside out. Previously, we explored how truly toxic individuals derive satisfaction from your pain. But for manipulation to be complete, many don't stop there. They go one step further. They isolate you carefully, intentionally, and often without you even realizing it. At first, it was subtle. She would say things like, "Your best friend doesn't really understand you the way I do," with a soft voice and a concerned look. I didn't take it seriously. I thought she was being protective, maybe even kind. But as weeks passed, these comments became more frequent and more personal. I found myself second-guessing the people closest to me. The friendships that had once been a source of strength began to feel unreliable. The support system I had built over years was being quietly dismantled, one seed of doubt at a time. And that's exactly how this tactic works. Her words weren't loud or aggressive. They were careful, calculated. She didn't tear down my connections openly. Instead, she planted quiet insecurities and let them grow. Over time, I began turning inward, away from those who knew me best. Her voice became the loudest in my head. Everyone else faded into the background. This kind of emotional isolation is not a coincidence. It's a psychological strategy used by manipulators to increase their control. The more disconnected you feel from others, the more dependent you become on them. They position themselves as the only one who truly cares, the only one who gets you, the only one you can rely on. But this is exactly what they don't want you to see. True strength comes from connection, not dependence. Authentic, loving relationships are what give us the courage to face challenges, the clarity to see the truth, and the grounding to stay true to ourselves. As you become more isolated, you also become more vulnerable, easier to influence, easier to break down. So if you've started feeling cut off from your family, your friends, your support system, take a moment to reflect. Is the distance genuine, or has someone been subtly pulling you away? Listen to that inner voice. Reach out to those who've always stood by you. Talk to people who remind you of who you were before things became so uncertain. These are your anchors, the people who help you stay grounded when the emotional tides begin to rise. Stoic philosophy teaches that we are not meant to exist in solitude. We are members of a greater community, and our greatest personal strength often comes from meaningful, enduring relationships. Through shared struggle, mutual respect, and honest connection, we become resilient, far more than we could ever be alone. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Protect your relationships. Nurture the bonds that build you up. Because when you're surrounded by true support, you're no longer easy to manipulate. And now let's look at a different tactic, just as harmful, but even more difficult to recognize: jealousy disguised as kindness. What happens when envy wears the mask of concern? In the previous section, we uncovered how envy, when hidden behind smiles and false encouragement, can slowly wear down your confidence. That's why protecting your circle and surrounding yourself with people who genuinely want to see you win is so essential. Choose those who celebrate your success with open hearts. People who don't just applaud your progress, but inspire you to aim even higher. The ones who motivate you to reach your full potential, not by cutting you down, but by lifting you up. And always remember, you don't need to dim your light just to make others more comfortable. Your success, your joy, your growth, they aren't things to apologize for. Stand firmly in your worth. Let your light shine unapologetically, because the right people won't feel threatened by your brightness. They'll reflect it back. Now we come to the final and perhaps most defining sign of a truly toxic person, the unrepentant heart. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Don't waste time discussing what a good person should be one." But those with a hardened, unrepentant heart live by the opposite philosophy. They resist growth. They reject accountability. And when they cause harm, they don't apologize. They justify. We've all known someone like this, a person who has an excuse for everything. When they hurt others, they don't take a moment to reflect or seek forgiveness. Instead, they blame the circumstances, downplay the impact, or even suggest the other person is overreacting. No matter what, the fault's never theirs. They twist the narrative, avoid direct confrontation, and often accuse others of being too sensitive. But what truly separates them is not just the damage they cause, it's their refusal to ever make it right. To them, self-reflection is weakness and stubbornness is strength. But the Stoic perspective sees it differently. Admitting our faults, examining our behaviors, and making amends when we've done wrong, these are not signs of weakness. They're acts of inner strength. They require humility, integrity, and the courage to change. An unrepentant heart closes the door to growth. It stunts maturity and erodes trust. If you find yourself close to someone who consistently avoids responsibility, never apologizes, and continues the same hurtful patterns, pause and reflect. Not everyone is willing to grow, and not everyone deserves a place in your peace. Protect your emotional energy. Invest your time and heart into people who are brave enough to own their flaws and work to become better. As Marcus Aurelius wisely reminded us, focus your mind on thoughts and people who elevate the quality of your life. So now we've journeyed through 10 powerful and revealing signs that may point to a toxic or even evil presence in your life. It's unsettling to realize that such people may already be close to you, but with awareness comes power. These individuals can only harm you when you're blind to their tactics. But once you recognize the signs, you not only protect yourself, you reclaim your energy, your clarity, and your freedom. As Marcus Aurelius taught, real strength doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering your own mind, your thoughts, and your reactions. Don't let toxic people rent space in your head. Don't let them disturb the serenity you've worked hard to build. Set boundaries, stand tall, and let your light shine, because that light is exactly what they fear most. If you found this video valuable, please like it, subscribe to Stoic Living, and leave a comment that says, "I see the signs to show you're ready to protect your peace and live with wisdom." Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, where your growth continues one insight at a time.